Mothy, 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 come here, it's feeding time. Ah, there you are. Feeding a moth, like a hummingbird, from the tip of your hand. Would you ever have imagined that? Of course not. Stuff like this is only possible if you are the sexy moth king himself. And that's why I'm here on YouTube, to show you the awesome things that we can do with these beautiful and underrated creatures. Yes? You're hungry today, aren't you? This moth is just free roaming in my room. And it's attracted to the blue cup here. Let me chase it away, it will always come back. It will always come back to feed. See? This is a vine hawkmoth. Scientific name, Hippotion celerio. This hawkmoth, is kinda common in Europe, where they feed on several types of plants. One of their favorite food plants is grapevine. And it's one of my favorite species to breed in captivity because of their fascinating behaviors. It acts just like a hummingbird and it's very good at tracking this object here. Let me chase it away with my finger. It will just come back. Can you see it? Let's do some aerobatics, my friend. No? No feeding for you. Ah, too bad, you're hungry, huh? So would you like to keep these as a pet? I sure love having them. The good news is that you are watching a fresh new episode of Mothcycles. That's right, Mothcycles is my online web series where I show you how to breed certain kinds of moths from a tiny egg to a big adult insect in captivity for your aspiring moth breeders. And today I am back with a fresh episode of Mothcycles. Hippotion celerio. The vine hawkmoth. Let's start the intro. Welcome to the first Mothcycles episode about a hawkmoth. See this empty candy jar? I'm going to use it to incubate the eggs of a hawkmoth. They just arrived to me via the mail. So I opened the container that they arrived in and placed the eggs on the bottom of the container, where they would spend a short time on room temperature. This story, as usual, begins with tiny little green eggs. Five days later, super tiny little babies hatched. And when I opened the container, I was confronted with a whole bunch of hungry little mouths that needed food urgently. Babies are best kept in a plastic box with a layer of absorbing paper towels on the bottom. In that container I placed a grape leaf, Vitis vinifera. Yes, it's true, one of their favorite food plants is grapevine. In a short time, it was possible to determine that our little caterpillars began feeding voraciously from the grapevine leaf. In a short time, the holes started appearing in the leaves that I was feeding them. And before you know it, the caterpillars were biting holes in the leaves and slowly leaving their marks. In about a week, the caterpillars were already in their second instar and feeding. I did make the mistake of letting the container grow a little bit moldy. Oops, that's my mistake. But luckily the caterpillars seemed fine. Phew! But I had better plans. I grabbed the caterpillars and placed them inside a rearing sleeve. For those who wonder what a rearing sleeve is, it's a net that you can hang around a food plant so that the caterpillars can free roam on the plant outdoors and feed from the leaves. These rearing sleeves are specifically designed for caterpillars, and this technique works excellent in warm summers. You can just keep the caterpillars outdoors where they will rear themselves for you, without your help, in the garden. Make sure not to do this with species that can potentially escape and survive though, since birds sometimes rip these sleeves open, or a storm can blow them off. I make sure to only sleeve species that would not harm the environment if they escaped. Thankfully I haven't had any species escape yet, but you never know. There you go! Our babies have grown quite a bit, as you can see. In fact, this is already the 4th instar. Such fast growth! Did you know that hawkmoths can grow way faster than the silk moths and tiger moths that I usually breed, especially relative to their body size? I can breed 2 generations of these guys in the time that it takes me to breed 1 generation of most silk moths. Our caterpillars are looking pretty cool and almost snake-like with their fake eye markings. What's really cool about this species is the color variation. It is not uncommon for the caterpillars of hawkmoths to have 3 different color forms. In this case they can be green, light brown or very dark brown. Let's put them back and wait another week. I think that in no time they will shed their skins to the final instar if we give them some peace and quiet. Skip time, skip time once again. Let's wait for a week and see what happens if our little caterpillars have grown. Let's see how they are doing right now. Well, look at that. Finally, they are in the final instar. Beautiful! The caterpillars of these moths are simply wonderful in my opinion, with their color variations and beautiful markings. They really do remind me of little snakes. Did you know they can wag their tails? The spike on their butt is called the anal horn, and it's thought that it distracts enemies away from their body. The anal horn is typical for many species of hawkmoths and varies a lot in morphology per species of hawkmoth, to be honest. Now the final instar of this species lasts longer than most of their early instars. It seems to last about 2 weeks in a warm summer. Skip time, skip time once again. Let's travel to 10 days later, because I actually neglected to check the sleeve for a whole 10 days. But that was on purpose actually, since it's convenient to give these little attention while they're growing inside the sleeve. You don't have to micromanage them. What's up guys, it is Bart Coppens, your supreme insect king. Today I made a tiny little mistake. Here's the sleeve with caterpillars. And I honestly did not expect these guys to pupate this soon. But I haven't checked up on the sleeve in 3 days. And it turns out some caterpillars already pupated. That's not very good, because I don't advise anyone to leave hawkmoth caterpillars in the sleeve until the moment they pupate. Because these guys are supposed to burrow in the soil, where they will spin like a cocoon, like, well, a cavity in which they will pupate. And here in the sleeve it's exposed to the sun, dry air, so that can actually thwart the pupation process. The good news is I see pupae in here, and they look healthy so far, but still it was not supposed to happen. So let's take a look here and see if this has gone well or not. Here guys, can you see the pupa? This is the pupa of the fine hawkmoth, Hippotion celerio. Looking healthy right there. There's even a caterpillar who is trying to pupate. So they're not supposed to pupate in the bag, but it happened. Problem is, these guys can pupate in a matter of days, so if you don't check up on them every day, you may just forget. Today is the day we'll find out, I guess. Oh, you like seeing my armpit? I'm sorry for that. This is a channel about nature, so you're gonna see things that are all natural. So let's see. Oh yes, there's pupa in here. Let me turn it upside down. Aha. The rest of the caterpillars, as you can see, is growing well. They are fully grown and even pupating. I found 4 pupa and a prepupal caterpillar. They definitely inspire me to breed more hawkmoths and more frequently on my channel. These moths grow really fast compared to my usual species. As you can see, most of the other caterpillars here are doing fine. Great size. Stripping all the leaves. So in that regard I have nothing to complain about. See? And here's more of them in the leaves. Can you see it here on this leaf? A green one. Got them in all shapes and colors. So I hope the rest will pupate just as soon. Yeah, this is what I found. 1, 2, 3, 4 pupa and 1 caterpillar who is in the process of pupating, I guess. Pupa looking healthy, so there's that. Despite my ignorance, they didn't suffer. I put the pupa and prepupal caterpillars in a soft, humid bed of moss. What's up, guys? So first pupa, it's official. We have pupa, so I'm gonna hanging the bag up again, and there you go. I love these sleeves, they're very useful. If you sleeve caterpillars, breeding will become so easy. It will become an automatic process. If you have a garden, it's so easy. But make sure to do it with species that have 0 chance of becoming invasive. This species is native to Europe, and this has even very rarely been recorded in my country. Turns out they can't survive here very well, but even if they did, I guarantee you they wouldn't last. I'm actually quite paranoid about invasive species. Because as an entomologist, I know the damage these guys can do. Well, not this species, but other species. If I were to breed them and something would happen, an accident. Let me just get my fat ass up here. And yep. Oh, this is out of frame, isn't it? Well, you'll just have to believe that's what's happening off screen. It's actually what I said I'm doing. There you go. Should be tight. Okay guys, good luck. Hope you all become moths for me. As you can see, some of the grapevine has almost no leaves left. caterpillars have eaten all the leaf of the grapevines. And here's the leaf coming still, see? Now you can imagine why grape farmers are not so happy with this species. My garden turns out it has grapes. Now don't get me wrong, okay? I'm not trying to label this species as a pest on YouTube. I regret the huge amount of pesticides we use every day. It's a shame, it's a mistake. We shouldn't do it on this massive scale, that is. But I do want to tell you that these guys, they know how to destroy grapevines. So, yeah, here they are in this bag. Growing pretty well. Interestingly, I had a mutant brown caterpillar with a small patch of green. Can you see it? Just an interesting observation. Let's skip time again, just a few days. Skip, just a few days. Oh, wanna look inside the sleeve? Of course you do. I found more prepupal caterpillars that were pupating. A few days later, I have a container of soggy moss, and in here I literally store all the pupa of my Hawkmoths. And right now here we can see the fruits of our labor, the effort that I did raising my babies has resulted in this nice collection of pupa. How many is there in total? I don't know if I will be able to find all of them right now. But you can catch my drift probably. There's some empty pupal shells in here. Well, I don't want to ruin my couch. I just cleaned it. So, oh, here's another one. See? Oops, let's take this empty pupa here. There's a good amount. There's here, for example, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pupa. Here's the two most recently pupated ones. Here these the ones I showed you when I was putting them in the container earlier. See, it's moving, it's very healthy. These pupa, they move a lot. It's like a wriggling worm. So here you go. This is our first pupa harvest of the Hippotion celerio. A very nice species, it's one of my favorites. It's also a friendly species for beginners. Raising the caterpillars is very easy. So, where I store these pupa is in this substrate of moss. This moss absorbs a lot of moisture. And that's good because you have to imagine in the wild, these pupa, they are hidden underground. Oops, sorry. They are hidden underground, and here they are protected from the sun, but also from the elements, and exposed to room conditions. I think they might desiccate if your house is really dry. Now the Hippotion celerio is a very strong species. It's very resilient in captivity, so I don't imagine they will die very fast, but still try keeping them. You know, try mimicking the natural conditions. It's always the best. It's always the best for your cute little animals. So I just grab some moss, lift it up. I place the pupa right here. in the middle of it. Put this on top. There you go. And make sure to place this box inside a bigger cage, because they're going to fly away once they hatch. But this is how I keep them. And the pupa of the Hippotion celerio, it's a continuously brooded species. If you keep them warm, that is. So in room temperature, you're expected to have moths in about, well, let's say 3 weeks time. So if we wait for about a month or less, I think we're going to see our first little babies. So that's going to be exciting. Hippotion celerio, let's see how they are doing. Lads. Ooh, yes. Oh yes, very good. Look at that. As you can see, some pupa here are white, but some of them are turning dark, you see? And turning dark is a sign that they're going to come out soon and turn into a moth. I can tell you, this dark pupa here on top, you have to be careful because they become soft and fragile in this stage. But this one, the dark one, is gonna be a mothy in, well, let's give it 3 days. 3 days, I say. And oh, this one is very developed. This one is very far. This one could hatch today or tomorrow, to be honest. Oh yes, it's very alive. Exciting! Guys, our first Hawkmoths. I think this is the first episode of Mothcycles on Hawkmoths. Oh, that's not true. The first one I ever made was about the grizzled Amur Hawkmoth, the Tulbinet tancre. But that was a poor quality episode, because it was the first episode. And back then I didn't really know how to properly film and edit. I still don't, but I've improved. So, yep. Looking good here. I don't want to dig around too much, but I'm curious. Like, what's happening in here, guys? You guys gonna come out? Ooh, yes. Here we have the jackpot. Oh, the pupa in here. Yes. Maybe I should add a stick inside or something later. No, I think they can find their way out just fine. I've kept this moss very moist and humid. It helps the pupa stay hydrated. They can dry out on room temperature sometimes, because our houses are very dry. Soil is a bit humid in nature. That's where they pupate most of the time. So let's not make them dry out. Very good. I think in a few days I will have my first Hawkmoth. And now it was time for us to wait. What's up, guys? I'm happy today. As you can see, our first generation of vine Hawkmoths are hatching. And tonight, not one but 4 of them hatched in one single night. So that's a really good start. And there it is, our first vine Hawkmoth, Hippotion celerio. Isn't this species simply gorgeous? This species has a huge distribution. It is found from tropical Africa to North Africa, to many parts of Europe and the Palearctic world, to India, many parts of tropical Asia, and is even found in Australia and sometimes New Zealand. Isn't it crazy how widely distributed this moth here is? I think the American continent is actually one of the few major places where it is totally absent, surprisingly. In this video, I raised them on grapevine, but in reality many plants are eaten by the caterpillars of this species, including willow herb, fuchsia, Virginia creeper, bindweed, arum lilies, basilissi, lilac and many other plants. The first 2 days in captivity I generally leave the moths alone to recover from the hatching of their pupa. This species is crepuscular, and as an adult they actually fly in twilight, when the light conditions are low. This is generally from sundown to the early night, but also seems during sunrise. Basically during the early morning and evening, when there is little light, but not too much. After keeping them in captivity for a day or two, it's time to start feeding them. A lot of hawkmoth species require a source of nectar or water mixed with sugar or honey to reproduce successfully. So how do hawkmoths feed anyways? And how do we feed them in captivity? Well, let's first take a look at what hawkmoths eat in the wild. This is a wild hawkmoth that is common in my area. I breed these in captivity myself, but every summer wild specimens also visit my garden to feed from the flowers. It's a common species in my region. And what do they eat? Let's check it out. Here it is! A wild hummingbird hawkmoth, Macroglossum stellatarum, feeding on flowers. Just like a hummingbird, hawkmoths have the ability to hover above a flower of their liking and use their long tongues to reach the nectar. These moths have excellent color vision and are attracted to colorful objects. Fun fact, different species of hawkmoths prefer different species and different colors of flowers. So how do we feed them in captivity? Here is an agamon sphinx, Eumorpha agamon. Beautiful, isn't it? This giant hawkmoth from the United States is one of the many species that I breed behind the scenes. I'll show you his life cycle some other time, but feeding this species to me is a huge struggle. I basically have to force these guys to eat each time. What I do is I use my hands to restrain the moth, and then I use a stick to roll out its proboscis into a substrate of sugar water. Sometimes the moth understands it and recognizes the food, and will stay still to continue feeding. It's easy to tell if the species is eating, since they will stay put with their proboscis extended. Hawkmoths can eat a lot of sugar water and keep feeding for many minutes in some cases. However, hand feeding can be a difficult struggle. Sometimes the moths fight back and try to escape because they are too stressed. Hand feeding works for a lot of species, and I do it regularly with the species that are picky eaters, to ensure they get enough nectar to sustain themselves. However, there are downsides to this method. As you can see, it's clearly stressful for the animals, and generally speaking a bit of a struggle to coax these easily frightened creatures into feeding. Sadly, it is necessary for some species, but not exactly optimal. The superior method of feeding hawkmoths is the one that requires you to touch them as little as possible. A lot of species are capable of feeding themselves in captivity, without much interference. But how do we do that anyways? Well, let's show you one example. Remember the hummingbird hawkmoths that I showed you before? Guess what? I've been breeding some this year. I'm going to use them as an example. These specimens are just drying their wings, but tomorrow they will be ready to eat dinner with me. It's a cute species, by the way, isn't it? And it can be common in my country in some years. That reminds me, I should do a Mothcycles episode of this species too sometime. Maybe if enough people support me on Patreon. Hint, hint, hint. Anyway, so why would I want to force feed these cuties if they can do it themselves? That would make no sense at all. Flowers, of course. If you grow the correct type of flower, there is no need to force your hawkmoths at all. This is easier said than done, because some species require large amounts of nectars from large amounts of flowers, and some species prefer pretty specific types of flowers, but these hummingbird hawkmoths, they can feed automatically. There is no need for me to hand feed them at all, since I put many purple Buddleia flowers inside of their cage. With a little bit of sunlight and warmth, these moths will be attracted to the flowers automatically and feed themselves, without my interference. Smart, isn't it? And now back to the vine hawkmoth. We could use a flower to feed these guys. But you can even go a step further and create an artificial flower for them. The trick is to use the perfect color, which for these hawkmoths is blue. Sugar, 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 sugar. Secondly, they want low lighting conditions. They are a crepuscular species and fly in low light conditions. The trick is to use an object that they will actually confuse for a flower. This requires some experimentation. If you did it correctly, the moth will automatically recognize it as food. Let's test if our moth likes these caps. Do you see that? It automatically deploys its proboscis when it sees the food. This is just perfect. No need to hold them down violently or make them struggle anymore. Are butterflies and moths, or insects in general, intelligent? Well, I think that insects, including lepidopterans such as these, are more intelligent than we give them credit for, to be honest. Because the ability to cognitively track a blue object like this that is moving and feed from it, which is arguably also a very unnatural thing, I think it requires a high degree of cognition. That being said, intelligence is hard to define, isn't it? Especially when it comes to a non-vertebrate. Intelligence is usually defined as problem-solving behavior that results from learning from a situation and adapting, and sometimes resulting in novel behaviors that overcome a certain problem. Now the thing with insects is, insects aren't really capable of creating novel behaviors. The thing with insects, including moths, is that they have a limited amount of behaviors, and I guess these behaviors are instinctual. And it doesn't really matter how much you train an insect, it's not able to come up with new behaviors that it isn't born with. Most of the behaviors insects have are completely instinctual, but what they can do is they can apply behaviors that are already innate to them and apply them to novel situations. So, how can I word this more easily? Sorry, I'm just too fascinated by these guys. Look, they're not leaving me. But what I'm trying to say is, insects, they cannot come up with new behaviors. All the behaviors they have are natural. I guess they are instinctual. I would say pre-programmed. And it's impossible for them to come up with new behaviors to solve problems. But what they can do is they can use their natural behaviors and apply them to new situations. So I do think there is a certain kind of intelligence to that. Even though it isn't problem solving by actively thinking, it is an interesting form of adaptation. And I also think some of these natural behaviors also require a lot of cognition. Personally, I'm impressed how these hawkmoths right here are able to track this little thingy here and associate it with food. Now, I did lie a little bit. I didn't train these moths or anything to feed from this. They're just naturally attracted to the color. I know what contrast they like. They're attracted to low light spectrum wavelengths, that is blue, that is, I think it's also, well, I think they can't see green, they can see blue. They're attracted to blue. They're also attracted to purple, it seems, and red. They don't seem to care much for green though. And by knowing what colors they like, I filled basically some bottle caps with sugar water, and they automatically come feed from it as long as they taste the sugar. Wow, isn't that amazing? I love these guys, they're like little fairies, man. Now these guys actually, they can feed a lot, they can keep going for quite a while. Wow, isn't that super interesting? Oops, oh, I scared one away. It will come back. There you go. They're actually, it seems they're actually depleting the sugar water a little. I wonder if I should refill it or not. I don't want them to run out of food today. I'm feeding these guys well, they're part of my breeding program. It's a vine hawkmoth, as I mentioned before, the Hippotion, celerio. Lovely, amazing creature. It's one of my favorite hawkmoths. And they will lay eggs on, well, I use grapevine to breed them. Although I believe they have other host plants as well. Wow, just look at that. Isn't it super incredible? Adding a second bottle cap in the middle of a big bottle cap, especially one that is lighter in color, seems to make the food even more attractive. Because I guess these moths are very visually oriented. And it's all about contrast when it comes to these animals. The color blue is very attractive to them, of course. So is the taste of something sweet. But if you add a second layer of contrast, for example, if you look at a flower, you'll see that a flower usually in the middle is lighter colored than the outside of it. In fact, a lot of flowers, they actually reflect UV light, and through the eyes of an insect, such as this one, it's basically a huge this thing that contrasts in the middle, you know. Wow, it's feeding time for my cuties. I'm actually breeding a lot of these. I think I'll have one female of this species can lay over 100 eggs if you take care of them well. This is my first generation. I think if I breed them well, I will have a few hundred of these in a few months. And that will be a fun video. Imagine me feeding 100 of these guys from one bottle cap. Oh, my room will be swarmed. I cannot wait. Anyway, my monologue about intelligence, it seemed out of place. But what I was really trying to say is that I'm just impressed by the cognitive behaviors of insects like these. Moths are often not really given credit for the amazing things that they can do. But there's also a lot of species of moths that have no functioning mouth parts and that die in 1 or 2 weeks' time. And they don't seem very intelligent. Mainly because all of their behaviors are completely and purely directed at pairing and reproduction. For example, take an emperor moth, a Saturnidae, for example a moon moth or a comet moth. They're famous on my YouTube channel. These guys only live for like 10 days. And the only thing they have to do is really find a mate, reproduce and lay eggs and die. And because of that we can't really see the behaviors that Lepidopterans, the complex behaviors that Lepidopterans are capable of in some situations, because they don't have them. All their behavior is directed at a single goal, that is to find a partner and reproduce. However, some of the more long-lived individuals, such as these Hawkmoths, these sphingids right here, they are capable of more complex things. So, wow, just look. I'm surprised these guys aren't full yet. I swear, they're really drinking a lot. Are you guys this hungry? Oh. Well, if what happens is when they're full is eventually they'll just go away. Eventually they will... Can you see it? Eventually they'll just fly away here in the room and I'll have to retrieve them somewhere. So I really love these guys. Have you ever seen a video like this on YouTube? I bet you haven't. Do you know any other YouTube channel like mine that does stuff like this? I'm actually kind of proud to be one of the biggest channels when it comes to butterflies and moths. I see one has left. Oh, it's coming back. It's still 3 of them feeding, guys. Wow. They're hungry today, huh? Funny thing is I have like 10 pupae of these dudes. So I'm gonna have a small army of these. And if it includes just a few females, then I'll be happy because each female can lay up to 100 eggs. So that will allow me to raise a few hundred individuals. I don't know if I'm going to raise that many insects, but these guys have a super fast life cycle. You can breed really many of them in a couple of months' time. Wow, look at that. Look at them go. It's funny, isn't it? Oh, still here? I'm even out of things to say. Let's talk about the vision of moths maybe. That would be interesting. Now I'm improvising, I'm not reading a script, and it's very late at night, so excuse me if I say things that are wrong. But what's interesting about the vision, especially the color vision of moths, is that it is usually limited to only a few colors. The main colors that moths can see are in most cases blue, green and ultraviolet and nothing else. Blue, green, ultraviolet and nothing else. However, when it comes to diurnal, which are day-flying moths, some of them have more complex color vision, and of course there's the butterflies. Butterflies usually have more sophisticated color vision and are also in some cases able to see stuff like red, like yellow even. They definitely see UV. But most of the color vision of Lepidopterans is limited to the lower end of the light spectrum. So lower wavelengths, that is blue, that is ultraviolet, that's purple, etc. So it really depends on the species if they're able to see other colors or not. You'll notice that people who moth trap usually use a lamp that emits UV spectrum light. And that's because that's the main thing that these creatures are attracted to, because the other colors, when you use a light bulb, it emits, for example, white wavelength light, then you'll be producing other wavelengths on the light spectrum that are basically useless to the eyes of most species of moths. So I think it would be very cool to do like research on their color vision. I don't know if it's possible for me as an amateur to do that. I'm basically just a hobbyist, not a scientist. But I feel like trying different colors of bottle caps to see which ones they like the most. That would be an interesting experiment for YouTube, don't you think? I can't believe that they're still eating. Man, you guys are so hungry today. Oh, one just flew away. Yep. Wow, it's back. I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. Man, I swear it's getting empty, man. They're drinking all the water. But there's some in the middle. Gee, guys, how much can you eat? Were you really that malnourished? I feed you well, don't I? Maybe I should share on YouTube what recipe I use to feed you guys. I should make this a regular series on my YouTube, feeding Hawkmoths, because that's one of the things I actually really like doing. Watching these creatures feed is so super fascinating. My gosh. Of course, in the wild they have this behavior as well. They feed from a wide range of flowers. The species is actually crepuscular, that means they are active during dusk and early in the morning, when there's very low light conditions. When you want to feed them, what you want to do is you want to feed them in a dim room. That means not daylight, with dim lights. And I think one just left. Yeah, I don't see... Oh, yeah, I think there's... its stomach is really full, I think. Yeah, they're leaving. Finally, it was about time. Where are you going? Oh my gosh, you're back. I should give them names. Oh my gosh. Wow. Moth feeding is so super awesome. It's kinda a shame that so many moth species aren't able to feed because they literally lack functioning mouth parts. It would be cool if there was any big, like emperor moths that you could feed like this. Imagine them flying around you. These creatures almost appears like they love me, but they're really just here for the food. So, super. Yo, you have to feed more in the middle. Okay. Not from the sides. Wow, they're really liking this stuff. Super. Oh man. I could watch these for hours. You know what, if this gets a lot of views, I will do this regularly. I'll just make a series on YouTube where I feed various hawkmoths and just talk. because this is the most relaxing thing ever. I'm really out of things to say even. Honestly, I am. Just wanted to show you I'm feeding moths. What's funny is you can actually see their stomachs expanding. It's because they can store a lot of nectar, or sugar water in this case, in their stomach. And they have like a crop. You can see their gut actually expanding as they drink. Sometimes they are so full of food that their whole abdomen is swollen. Super. Wow. Whee. This species has a super huge distribution. The Hippotion celerio. I believe it's even found in parts of Africa. They're definitely common in Europe. Although this species is not really in my country. Well, it is here, but super rare. I believe only a few individuals per year are found, because they don't really like the cold Dutch climate. But in southern Europe, these dudes can be common. One of their favorite host plants is grapevine, Vitis vinifera. Some farmers go so far as to call them pests in vineyards where grapevines grow, because the caterpillars like to eat them. But I believe these are also found even up to parts of tropical Asia and basically most of the African continent. So this is an insanely insanely successful species. Sorry if I struggle with my words, it's really late and I'm not a native English speaker. So sometimes I'm trying to convey concepts in my mind and it comes out really awkward and weirdly. So, but I guess most of the people who watch my channel know that. What? You guys are so epic. You know what I really want to do? I really just want to raise a ton of these dudes and just make a video where I'm feeding like 20 of these at the same time. That would be amazing content. I'm going to do it, actually. I've decided. Let's see how many of these I can raise in 2 months. We'll see the video if the rearing goes well. So, oh, wow. Oh, since I'm out of things to say anyway, and since I have your attention, here's something I can still tell you. My YouTube channel is completely and entirely demonetized by YouTube. And YouTube does not support my videos and does not support my channel. That makes it really hard for me as an independent content creator and entomologist to make a lot of videos on YouTube all the time. Please consider joining my crowdfunding platform Patreon, or consider sending me a tip through PayPal or other options that are available. That will help me make a lot of videos like these. I really spend a lot of time on my YouTube channel. It's grown a lot lately, and I'm really grateful for the fact that so many people are watching it. But I really also want to upgrade the quality of the things that I make. So, and it costs really a lot of time and resources and effort. Just want to throw that out there. Internet begging, I'm not a fan of it myself, but I'm forced to do it if I want to keep making these long episodes. I see they keep drinking from the outer ring, since this is basically 2 bottle caps, and I see they've drank most of the sugar water on the edges. I should add more water. Can we do that? Or am I gonna chase you guys away? Sorry dudes. There you go. Whoop! Oops, it's overflowing. And now my legs are covered with sugary nonsense. Oops, I think the moth didn't like that. But I think they are getting full really. I think the rest is not hungry anymore and this is the last one. But we're going to continue until all the moths are satisfied. So this is our last little guy. I'm gonna feed him until he leaves. which I think is pretty soon because his friends are already finished. At least that's what I think. I can see them flying around, but they are not interested in the cup. Oh, I see, some of them have settled here on the wall. Oops, the cup is dripping and I'm spilling all over myself. What the heck? Super cute little animal. Whee! I can't believe Silence of the Lambs damage a reputation of moth breeders such as myself this much. As you can see, we're pretty cool people, okay? We're not serial killers. Silence of the Lambs destroyed our reputation, man. What? I bet most people would like to have stuff like this as a pet. I swear. Oh, that's my phone. It's sending annoying messages. Look, just look at it. It's amazing, isn't it? It is amazing. Nobody can tell me otherwise. The world of insects is beautiful and underrated, man. It hurts my heart. And I'm really happy and grateful so many people are watching my show. Because to me it shows there's a lot of people who are interested in the beauty of insects. And in the things I have to say about them. Because I want to show you cool stuff like this that not many people are aware of. So, I think I have over 1,000 videos now. At least approaching 1,000. Yeah, little dude. You're hungry, aren't you? Man, you really are hungry. My arm is starting to hurt. Actually, from holding up this cup. Man. It's spilling. Let's see you feed from this. Yep. Doesn't bother you, does it? Little hummingbird. There you go. Yeah, I'm gonna put this guy down. I'm finished. My arms are starting to hurt. Thank you for watching my Hawkmoth feeding video. It was unusual, but I hope you enjoyed it. Bye bye. So where the heck do I keep these moths when I am not feeding them? I keep them in a medium-sized pop-up cage, specifically designed for insect breeding. They can also be washed and cleaned easily. If you keep your moth loved, well cared for and happy, the inevitable will happen. Moth sex. Here is a pairing. A male and female making love. Interestingly, this species feeds in low light conditions during sunrise and sundown, but the actual pairing happens in the near darkness, usually just after the sun went down at night and the moths begin to settle down. This is the moment they usually find a partner as well. Pairing hawk moths can be much more difficult than pairing the silk moths that I frequently show on my channel. But this piece is an exception. They are amazingly easy to pair. As long as you have males and females, feed them well and keep them at room temperature, and they are more or less just guaranteed to pair at some point. So after all this lovemaking, the inevitable will happen. The females will be gravid and soon begin to produce enormous amounts of eggs. For egg laying, I recommend using host plant. The good news is that not all species of hawkmoths actually need host plant to lay eggs, although some of them do. In captivity, Hippotion, celerio included, a lot of species will lay eggs randomly on the walls of their cages. This is optional, but I prefer to give them plants to lay eggs on, since it's easier to collect the eggs from a leaf than from the walls of the cage. It also stimulates them to lay more, in my opinion. So I picked some grapevine and I placed it in a bottle of water inside their cage. And guess what? In the evening the moths were instantly attracted to their host plant. And there you have it! Eggs! Yay! This is why it's easy to give them host plant. It makes it easier to collect the eggs, otherwise they will scatter them randomly everywhere. Time to collect some eggs. I'm sorry, this was rather difficult to film in a good angle, but I'm sure that you get the point. Hey guys, I hope you are enjoying the video. You see, I had so many Mothcycles episodes about Saturnid moths, the Saturnidae, the emperor moths or the silk moths, that I thought, we need some more diversity on my channel. Because my channel is about all species of moths, not only one family of moths, and I want representation of as many families as I can. And I thought, this would be very unique content. I really enjoy making this video and I hope you guys enjoy watching it as much as I enjoy making it. I also want you guys to realize making videos like these is hard work, it's honest work, my friends. This Mothcycles episode, making it, well, it took me a good 3 months. About 3 months per episode is the time I need to spend to make a successful episode of Mothcycles. Of course it depends on the species I'm breeding, some take longer, some take slower. But to collect the good footage I have to get up every day, I have to film what I'm doing. I have to collect a lot of video material, then cut it down to one concrete video. And so I always hope that you guys appreciate and enjoy it as much as I do. There you go. One tip if you're breeding this species is don't become attached to them. Well, these guys are capable of feeding and a lot of moths of my channel cannot feed. And a moth that cannot feed usually live for a short time. These hawkmoths live for a longer time because they can eat. If you care for them well, I think about 3-4 weeks is what they can make in captivity. Sometimes a bit less than that. But I have to admit, I get a little bit attached to these dudes because they're so cute and they have such elaborate behavior. I'm usually not sad when my moon moths die or my atlas moths because they only live for a short time. And they only live to pair anyways, but these cuties, they come to me to feed and I spend time with them together. And that makes it kind of sad if one of them dies. It sucks, but it's true. That's how I feel. I get a little bit attached to these creatures. I know it's embarrassing, I know it's stupid. I care a lot about moths for some reason. I'm just a stupid guy. Look at that. It's always amazing to spend time with these cuties. Let's move the camera a little bit. Yup. Sorry for that. Now we have better light. Just observe it feeding. Yeah. Now these moths can absolutely gorge themselves if they are truly hungry. If it stops being hungry, what it will do is it will just fly away. It will just lose all interest suddenly. But they can eat for a good 5 to 10 minutes sometimes even more. I found out they have quite a big capacity of storing liquids. They can drink so much that their abdomen swells up. Really, it becomes like gorged with sugary liquid. And they just fill themselves up. Now this is a bit unnatural because in the wild, every flower only contains a very little bit of nectar, right? A tiny little bit of nectar. And so in the wild they would have to visit many flowers to fill their stomachs as much as they can with this single cup here. Because this thingy, it contains enough sugary water to satisfy this moth in one single feeding. Now in the wild this would never happen because they have to fly from flower to flower to flower only for a little bit of nectar. So it doesn't bother them though, it's just really it's just an advantage to them. There you go. They seem really attracted to the color blue. I have to tell you a rectification. In a previous video I told you guys they're attracted to red. But I checked the science and these moths are trichromatic. That means they're only able to see 3 different colors, which are green, blue and UV. I was correct about the fact they can only see the lower end of the light spectrum, which is indeed green, blue and UV is the lower end of the light spectrum, so I was correct about that part. But I chose the wrong example because the color blue is actually on the higher end of the light spectrum. And I knew that, but I was doing it from the top of my head. And I guess I just made a mistake. These feeding vlogs are amazing, don't you think? What? Look at that. Super. Look at them go. Oof, my arm's starting to hurt. I have to switch from arm to arm sometimes. Yeah, cutie. You're gonna be famous, huh? You're gonna be on YouTube. Listen to that sound, can you hear it? Zzz. It's like a real hummingbird. I think they're superficial. Oh, I think he's full. I think, yeah, he had enough food. He just settled here next to me. Let's twist the camera. Can you see him? There he is. See? And that means he's full and that he does not want to eat. That's how moths communicate. I do not need any more food. So let's stop the video. Sadly, after giving birth, some of my earliest moths were beginning to get quite old. These moths are so old, they can't fly anymore to support themselves and eat. In the wild they would have died long ago, but I take good care of my elderly. Some of them were even missing most of their legs. I did everything I could to give them a comfortable life. Guess what happened next? Babies! Yay! The baby caterpillars, were seriously hatching. Of course, I put the small caterpillars in a plastic box and offered them some grapevine leaf. Second generation, yes. In the life of every pet owner, there comes that moment where we have to say goodbye. Goodbye, friends. Thank you for giving me an awesome experience. Your memory will live on YouTube. Let's give you guys to the birds. I only do this with species that are native, by the way. Don't worry, I don't scatter dead exotic creatures around that could be harmful when you think about pathogens. But I'm pretty sure birds will love these too. Do you wonder how I have so many birds in my garden? Yeah, that's the trick, my dudes. Don't throw non-native species in your garden though. They could be toxic or have foreign diseases. I only do this with native European, native insects. Anyways, birds love them. Ah, look at these guys scavenging. Let's get back to the babies. What did I do with them? Well, the same as with their parents. I placed them in my garden on a bunch of grapevines. Quite easy and straightforward if you ask me. With some luck, I'll be raising many of these guys for the second generation. Good thing my garden has that many grapevines. These things could do with some pruning. What is up, guys? Today we did something pretty awesome, didn't we? We reproduced these creatures in captivity and I showed you the whole process. I showed you the whole life cycle of this animal in captivity here on Mothcycles. And here in this cage are the babies. The second generation is already developing. And I think there's about 100 of them. So in a month, or maybe a little bit more, I'm going to have even more moths than I started the video with. Isn't that crazy? As you can see, some of my moths, they are still alive and I am still feeding them every day. And they are still laying eggs. But despite that, I think this is the moment where I decide to end the video. Why is that? Well, I showed you everything I could potentially show. I showed you how I raised them from egg to moth. I showed you the caterpillars, I showed you the pupa, I showed you the moths. And how they reproduced, and how they produced another generation. I would love to let the show go on, but I think it would drag on unnecessarily if we kept going. Thank you for watching. This was the rearing part of Mothcycles. Hippotion celerio, the vine hawkmoth, one of my favorite hawkmoths of Europe. If you stay tuned on my channel, I'm going to show you the life cycle of many more species like this in captivity. If you are a little bit patient and allow me the time to prepare my videos for you. But it isn't finished yet. It's time to go to the discussion part of Mothcycles. That's part of this mini-series. Let's go. Oh, hey, what's up there, my friends? I'm happy to see that you're back and that you joined me for another successful episode of Mothcycles. Cheers! It's getting colder outside, so we're back to tea. Fun fact, I drink tea sometimes. It depends on my mood. Sometimes I'm slurping down energy drinks and sometimes I'm slurping down tea. This should be better for my health, but tea gets boring after a while. Anyway, this is the part of the video where I do a small review. Because if this is the first time you're watching a Mothcycles episode, you'll know that in the Mothcycles episodes what I do after the breeding is we have a discussion and even a small biology lesson if we can. And this is what makes Mothcycles a Mothcycles episode. Because on my channel there's a lot of videos where I show you the life cycle of moths, but they are not called Mothcycles. Because Mothcycles is standardized. It contains the entire life cycle of an insect, plus a discussion, plus a preview of new stuff coming up at the end. It's like a special formula, a recipe. And the other episodes don't always have this. Plus Mothcycles is a longer video series. In Mothcycles I show everything I do when I'm breeding them. In my regular YouTube videos with life cycles I don't show everything that happens or all the caterpillars that die or the trouble I have behind the scenes. I cut it out. Only in Mothcycles I show everything I do in detail. That's what makes this video series special. It's not only about the life cycle. Anyway, there were some misconceptions about the Hippotion celerio in this video. I even spread some misinformation. So let me educate you a little bit about what is this species anyway and why are they special. I'll explain you something here in a small presentation, alright? Hippotion celerio, the vine hawkmoth or the silver-striped hawkmoth, is a widely distributed hawkmoth that can be found on many continents and in many ecozones. Today I'm going to educate you about this species. This species is an amazing species to breed and study in captivity, suitable for beginners and experts alike. Let me tell you about the most important host plants of this species. Females lay eggs on many types of plants that the caterpillars will eat, but certainly not any type of random plant. Vitis or grapevine is one of the most commonly used host plants. Parthenocissus or Virginia creeper is also one of their most preferred host plants. But wait, they also lay eggs on many more other plants such as Galium or bat straw, Epilobium or willow herb, Beta or beet, Impatiens or jewelweed, Convolvulus or bindweed, Scrofularia or figwort, Verbascum or mullein, Syringa or lilac, Rumex or dock, Begonia, Arum or arum lilies, Cissus or veldgrape, Xanthodecia, and even more plants that are less frequently used. The most commonly used plants though are plants from the grapevine or Vitaceae family, such as Virginia creeper, grapevine, veldgrape, and other relatives are the most frequently used host plants in the wild. And although they can feed on many more other types of plants in reality, when there is a grapevine or a relative of a grapevine in the area, they will almost certainly prefer to lay their eggs here. It's also what I recommend for breeding these insects the most. We see the global distribution of this insect. Notably, it seems absent on the American continent. Sorry Americans. The areas that are colored red on this map are its permanent resident range, where the insect breeds all the year long. The orange zones are its extralimittal range, also known as its migrant range, That means that the population in the orange zones are not permanent, but usually migratory insects that take residence when the season is favorable. You see, you have to understand that Hippotion celerio is essentially a continuously brooded and heat-loving species. It reproduces all year long and is not very capable of overwintering or resisting cold temperatures for long. This is reflected in the red areas of the map, where it permanently resides. This species is such an excellent flyer. They have conquered most continents. In Asia, they are widespread in India, China, Indochina, even Indonesia, Papua, the Philippines, and they're also found in Africa, where they seem to be present nearly anywhere in sub-Saharan Africa. Although the species does seem to avoid the arid and desert-like regions like the Sahara, but it's found nearly anywhere else, even on the island of Madagascar, but also along Africa's north coast and parts of the Middle East. Last but not least, it's even conquered Australia. Now let's talk about the orange areas on the map that are considered to be its migrant range. The truth is that this insect is such an exceptionally good flyer. They can migrate long distances, and sometimes they end up in places where the climate is technically too cold for them. But only technically, since they can avoid the problem. You see, in summer, the climate in Europe, for example, is perfect for this species. Here they can produce several generations a year. Especially if it's warm, this species can produce 2 to 4 generations in Europe, depending on the country that they are visiting. The main problem is winter. This species cannot really hibernate and is not very cold resistant. So what happens in winter is that most of these moths either migrate away, or they go back to warmer climates, or they simply die from the cold temperatures. Each winter, the populations of these insects are more or less eliminated by the cold. Until spring arrives, that is, and that's when they begin their migration up north all over again. All the orange areas on this map are areas where the insect migrates to when the conditions are right, but cannot survive permanently. I see that even the United Kingdom and my own country, the Netherlands, are colored orange. I can confirm that this species even migrates to my country sometimes and is found here and also in the UK, although this is generally exceptionally rare for them to get this far north. Only a handful reports of this species exist in the Netherlands. Let me quote on how rare it is in my country. Less than 10 individuals are found per year, most of the time, and not each year this species is found in the Netherlands at all. It really just comes down to a handful of individuals. That's probably because the Netherlands is on the border of its northern periphery and a very temperate country. The species doesn't really thrive here except for the hottest of summers. And even then it has a very short time frame to reproduce here, because they would have to migrate back to Africa since they arrive here later in the year because of the sheer distance from their resident range. So to summarize it, this species is also able to migrate to places with temperate climates in summer and take advantage of the warmth, but they disappear here completely in winter because they can't handle the cold. Let's talk about the color vision of hawkmoths in detail for several reasons. First of all, when I was feeding my hawkmoths, I was spreading some misinformation that I would like to correct. Second of all, it's useful to know this information if you want to feed hawkmoths in captivity. Hawkmoths are trichromatic, that means they have cones that can see 3 basic colors: green, blue and ultraviolet. Humans can see green and blue as well, but human eyes cannot see ultraviolet. Many moths and butterflies, however, are capable of seeing ultraviolet. They can't see other colors, such as red. Earlier in this episode, I misspoke and accidentally said that they can see red, which is absolutely untrue. I'm sorry. So here I will come with some information that is backed up by modern science to make up for it. Moths see wavelengths on the lower end of the light spectrum, blue and green, and ultraviolet, or UV. And as you can see in this chart, they are close to each other in the electromagnetic spectrum. Here we can clearly distinguish it from what humans are able to see. We call the wavelengths that humans can see the visible light spectrum. Of course, we are talking about animals, so the visible light spectrum is a misleading title, since what is visible light pertains to what is visible to humans. Here in this red box I have marked the light spectrum that hawkmoths can see. As you can see, it includes part of the electromagnetic spectrum that falls outside of the visible light spectrum for humans. These animals can mainly see blue, green and ultraviolet, although of course they can also observe contrasts and luminosity. Ultraviolet vision is interesting. Ultraviolet is a color that humans cannot see, but many insects can. Did you know that many animals and plants also reflect ultraviolet light to attract each other? In these images we can see a bunch of flowers. Specifically, we see a picture of a flower through the eyes of an insect, compared to what a flower looks like through the eyes of a human. Interesting to note is that a lot of flowers have hidden ultraviolet color patterns that humans cannot see. This is mainly to attract pollinators such as moths, but also bees, flies and other insects. The wings of many butterflies and moths also contain color patterns that are invisible to our eyes, but are present in ultraviolet. Some butterflies have scales that reflect ultraviolet that are very attractive to other butterflies. And flowers become extra visible and extra attractive to insects because of their ultraviolet color patterns. The hawkmoths have evolved larger lenses in their eyes and shortened the distance that the light has to travel to get to their color receptors. This lets enough light in to allow them to detect ultraviolet, green and blue on a moonless night, when the only light comes basically from the stars. And even in this darkness they can find flowers by color as easily as their butterfly cousins do during the day. So if you want to feed hawkmoths, or at least the Hippotion celerio, use blue objects to feed them if you can. Pink also attracts them, and purple, since purple is a combination of red and blue. White objects can also work, since white contains all the colors in the light spectrum and does seem to attract them less than blue or green. I personally prefer to use bottle caps, which seem perfect in size and contain liquid, but any small flower-sized objects works honestly. Last but not least, this species is crepuscular. They only fly when the sun is going down or coming up, so to speak. This is important to understand because this species actually does not feed in the darkness, nor do they feed in full daylight. They actually do need some ambient light to be able to see their food. It's very important to remember this because a lot of hawkmoths are species that actually are fully nocturnal and can feed in almost complete darkness. But this species cannot. That's why I feed them in a dimly lit room in my video, to make sure the lights are not too bright, but also to make sure it is not too dark for them. In the wild, these moths feed in the twilight. When the sun is finally going down and the sky becomes dark, they cease their activities. Pairings happen in the near darkness, but not complete darkness, when the sun has almost completely gone down and the last slivers of light sustain them. The best thing to feed them is water with sugar. Make sure not to add too much sugar, guys. 25% sugar and 75% water seems to work perfectly. Instead of white sugar, you can also use honey if you want. Anyway, I forgot to give myself a rating, which, as if you are a viewer of my series Mothcycles, you'll know I always give myself a rating. How did the breeding project go? Let's review it. I think it went reasonably okay, although I would have liked it if I was able to rear more moths. From the, we had 30 eggs in the beginning. And how many moths did we raise? Oh, I forgot. Did we have 10 specimens? I think the survival rate from egg to moth could have been a little bit higher. But I raised them in a sleeve, which is also the lazy method. I think some of the early rains and stuff may have killed some of the baby caterpillars. especially if they're so small and you put them in a sleeve. Also stuff like spiders, etc. can kill them, even rain droplets when you put them outdoors. Despite that, we completely successfully reproduced the life cycle. I filmed every life stage, even the pairing. So overall I am satisfied with, oh my god, I should lose more weight. I'm getting fat, boys. Always was. The rating I'm about to give myself is, let's say, a 7 out of 10. I have to give myself a positive rating because the life cycle completed. Perfect. But it would have been nice to have more individuals. The survival rate is not perfect. But we have a second generation, so maybe we can work on that in the future. Hello there everybody, and thank you for watching the episode. We have come to that moment in my show where I sadly and regrettably have to beg for the money of strangers online. I think it's pretty cringy. I think it's pretty humiliating to have to repeat this every time. But the truth is, my YouTube show is completely and permanently demonetized by YouTube themselves. When people click on my videos, I don't make any money from my videos. Zero. Unlike other YouTubers, who make money when people click on their videos because of the ad revenue. In my case, this doesn't happen. I could get 1 million subscribers tomorrow and millions of views, and it wouldn't change anything for my channel. Therefore, I am forced to beg to strangers online. If you like what I do, if you like my YouTube channel, please consider supporting me on my crowdfunding platforms such as Patreon. All the options are available in the descriptions if you are curious. This channel is a quite expensive channel to run. Breeding butterflies and moths is a very time-consuming and expensive hobby. So to keep this going every month and to come out with fresh new videos for people to enjoy, you can imagine it costs me quite a bit. However, donations from my loyal fans and viewers basically compensate for my loss. And this is why I have to add this segment to all my videos, even though it reduces the quality and makes it annoying to repeat it over and over. If you like the show and if you like what I am doing, please consider becoming my supporter on Patreon or donating to me. It is possible to send donations via LiberaPay, which accepts credit card, and PayPal. You can also send me a tip through a platform called Ko-fi, or buy a monthly subscription on Patreon. Sometimes my fans can participate in polls and get behind the scenes information. Of course, you also will have my gratitude for helping me run the show and grow the moth movement even bigger. I am grateful for YouTube for being a free platform, and I would never have to monetize my content. I would hate it if I had to do that. But the truth is, life isn't easy as a YouTuber that films butterflies and moths. In fact, I would say it's quite hard sometimes. And therefore I am looking for support online in the form of donations and sponsorships. But of course only from those who are willing and able to. If you enjoy this episode, then please understand I have more tricks up my sleeve. Some people are amazed I was able to feed these moths from my hands. But there's many more species I know cool tricks like that with. If you give me the time to develop new videos and content, I am going to show you your favorite species and blow your mind with the coolest butterflies and moths. But I can't do it alone, and certainly not without all of your help. So therefore, if you really like this video and if you really like my channel, consider helping me in keeping this movement going. Thank you all for watching. And I apologize for begging for money on the internet, which I think is a bit shameful. But I've accepted that I need to keep doing it to keep the show going. I apologize. See ya. Welcome to the e-wagging part of my video. Are you excited for this? Well, you should be, because this time it's a bit different than usual. Let's put down my tea. Oh no, or not. Who cares? You see, today we have a special sponsor, which I will thank explicitly in my video. To protect his identity, I'm not going to share his full name on YouTube. Because, well, we get a lot of viewers nowadays, and there's a lot of people watching. Most of them are amazing people, but you never know if there's that crazy one watching. But I was, let me check the details on my phone. Well, he requested me, can you please just use my first name, and if you like, that I'm from the United States. Well, cheers. His name is Rob, and Rob is from the United States. Rob is one of my subscribers who watches many of my videos. Thank you for joining, Rob. But Rob gets a special mention in my video today because over the past few months he sent me a lot of donations through PayPal. I'm not going to disclose the exact amount for privacy reasons, of course. But Rob, let's just say he sent me a lot of donations recently, and I think that deserves a shout out. In fact, over the past few months he was being the top contributor to my channel, like the #1 sponsor of my channel. And at some point he even donated so much that I was able to take many days of work and edit videos. And because of that I was able to finish 3 episodes of Mothcycles in a short time. We have the one coming up with a moon moth, Actia sinensis. We have one with a rare tiger moth from Spain, the Coscinia cribaria benderi. And we have this one, the Hippotion celerio. And there's even a potential 4th episode coming up soon, so stay tuned. And it's all because of Rob. You see, the limiting factor in my life is I have many obligations, such as work, and that distracts me from making YouTube videos. But when I have the financial space to take some time off work and edit videos, I can actually produce many of them in a short time. So I asked Rob, is there anything you would like to ask me or my viewers on YouTube? And I thought the least that I could do for him in return is give him a special thank you like this, but also to let him answer a personal question here on my YouTube channel. And he has one question for me. He asked me, what are 2 things you are deeply proud of in your life and why? I hope that's not too personal. Thanks again. Cheers, Rob. No, Rob, that's definitely not too personal. In fact, I don't think it's a super personal question. So you asked me 2 things I am really proud of. Well, I'm going to mention 3 things. You asked for 2, but I'm going to give you 3 things. That's because the first answer is really obvious. One thing I am genuinely proud of is this. My YouTube channel. Yes, I am proud of my YouTube channel. I am proud of the fact it gets recognition. Almost at the moment 20,000 subscribers. The show is becoming big finally. And I'm proud of that because I work hard for it, you know. People always call you lucky, but they have no idea how hard you worked. That's really what it is. People always say, oh Bart, well you're a YouTuber, you're so lucky to be able to do that. My friends, it's not luck, it's hard work. I've been uploading videos non-stop for like 7 years. 7 years of my life and energy was put into this channel. 7 years of getting very little views. I mean, for 7 years I've been uploading videos for nobody, really for a few thousand people. It is only this current year, 2020, that my channel is finally gaining a lot of views and attention. And I'm proud of that, because I worked for that. People underestimate how hard of work YouTube is for me sometimes. There's a lot of YouTubers who can sit behind the computer and play video games and score thousands and millions of views. But I am not that funny, I am not that spontaneous, I am not that quirky. I have a special talent, and my special talent is explaining and filming and breeding butterflies and moths, right? That's my special talent. And that's great, I'm good at it, but it is much harder than being a YouTuber who does meme videos or gaming videos, because my content, try filming the life cycle of an insect on YouTube. It requires you to film the progress every few days consistently. And this episode that you just watched, it was several months of work for one video. And I'm just doing this almost full time, some moments really. So it really is, for me, YouTube is hard work, and people underestimate it. They think, oh, social media is easy. Social media is, you fart into a camera and your fans will eat it up. No, that's not true. Getting recognition online, it's really hard, at least for me. And the content I make is truly expensive and time consuming. So that's why I am deeply proud of my channel. I mean, try making a YouTube channel about moths. It is super, super hard. I think it's much easier if you make a channel about sports, about gaming, about cars, because these are popular hobbies. And there's many people who want to watch videos about expensive cars and makeup videos. It's popular, but moths and insects are not popular. So to be able to reach so many people online with such a small niche hobby, I'm proud of that. Let me brag for a second, but I don't think that's something many other people could do. It's not only because I'm good at breeding moths. I think there's a lot of other good breeders who don't get any views. And it has nothing to do with their ability to breed insects, but also with their ability to share their passion, to talk about it. And I think I'm really good with words. I think I'm good at grabbing people's attention. I'm also a weird guy, and people like seeing weird people on YouTube. I think my personality just really fits the thing I'm doing. So it's a combination of factors that make it successful, and I am proud. Because I worked really, 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 really hard to be here. And I think Rob understands that, because that's the reason he donates to my channel. Because he likes what I do. I mean, I imagine he likes it, otherwise you wouldn't send funds to a YouTuber like me. But yeah, that's one of the things I'm really proud of. That's the first one that I would... let's see, two other things I'm really proud of. Well, I'm really proud of this is going to sound arrogant, but I think that I am a critical thinker, right? That sounds very cringy. It sounds like I'm complimenting myself. I'm not saying I'm the smartest guy in the world, okay? I don't even have an education because I struggle at school. So there's that. I'm an uneducated pleb who used to work in a warehouse at DHL. I'm really not a scientist or a biologist. I'm more like an online guru, but I do think that I'm capable of something I am proud of, and it is critical thought. My opinion is never or rarely influenced by social pressure. We live in a day and age where people will try to shame you, or people will try to push you into submission so that you form the correct opinion. And it doesn't have to do with political correctness, but other aspects of life as well, I feel like nowadays people are not encouraged to think out of the box anymore. You have to join a movement. You have to be left wing, you have to be right wing. You have to be a communist, a capitalist, or a Nazi. I mean, you have to fit in a box somewhere, you know? You have to be religious, or you have to be an atheist. You have to be a Republican, or you have to be a Democrat. And that's because I feel like people are often herded like cattle, really. We place them into boxes and they're supposed to drink the Kool-Aid and believe the entire agenda. But I think that a lot of my opinions that I have, I think a lot of them are unique. And I don't really fit in any of those boxes. My political ideas are a combination of left-wing and right-wing ideas. I have left-wing and right-wing opinions. So it's very hard to define me politically. I will make a different video from that because we are watching Mothcycles and this is not a video about politics. But what I'm trying to say is my opinion is not influenced by people who are trying to pressure me into me thinking a certain way. Because since I was a very little child, people trying to shame me or telling me I'm a bad person has never had any effect on me. I'm stubborn, I'm a critical thinker, and I will come to my own conclusion, regardless of who is screaming in my face. So, that sounds very vague, but I think it's something I am proud of. So, I don't know if there's many people who like hearing my opinions on YouTube. I think 90% of my subscribers are just here to see cool moths and cool butterflies and not hear my political opinions. That's completely fine. I mean, that's what my channel is about. It's about nature, it's not about me. But I feel like there is a small percentage that does like to hear my opinions. And yeah, I'm proud of the fact that I see myself as an independent thinker. And I'm proud of that. And I will usually stand up to things that I think are right, even if the face of social pressure, even if it's not socially acceptable to think the way that I do. I don't care. I will come to my own conclusion. And I guess that stubbornness can also be a vice. It has a downside because I'm very stubborn like a donkey sometimes. Sometimes I refuse to admit that I am wrong. So that's the downside. But the positive side is that, you know, I am not influenced by other people very strongly. And I think that's a good value to have. So yes. So I am proud of my YouTube channel and I am proud of critical thought. Sounds like I'm trying to be an intellectual here. Like, oh, I'm such a critical thinker. Please don't think that about me, that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to be a pseudo-intellectual on YouTube. But I know my limits, I know the things I'm good at, I know the things I'm bad at. I think I'm a realistic person. And I think I'm honestly, I think I'm a critical thinker. Now I have to name one more thing that I am proud of. The third thing is going to be more difficult. What am I proud of? The third thing. Well, what are some of my achievements? I am proud of... it's getting hard. There's not that many things I'm proud of, to be honest. I'm struggling. I'm struggling right now. I'm struggling to think of something else that I am proud of. I think what I am proud of is this has to do with YouTube. And I already mentioned YouTube, but I'm proud of my community. I have a pretty close community. I made many friends online this year. I'm very approachable. I'm actually one of those YouTubers, and if you ask me to hang out with you in real life, I probably will. Not a lot of YouTubers do that. A lot of YouTubers are scared of their own fans and avoid them when they can. But I think when I get questions, and people try to get close to me, I'm usually very accepting. And I'm proud of that, because I used to be a bit of a social reject, an outcast. YouTube has also improved my social life a lot. I made so many friends, while I didn't used to have many friends at all. So that's amazing. But I think my community is a community of very passionate people who are passionate about nature, also very positive. I rarely get any hate comments on my channel. I mean, of course I do get hate comments. It's YouTube, it's the internet. And there's always bullies and mean people on the internet. So I get rude comments, but it's very, very, very rare. Like, if you go to my comment section in any video, like, you'll see that 9 out of 10 are very positive, very encouraging. I also made some very nice circles of friends on social media. For example, I have a few Facebook groups, a WhatsApp group, a Discord that people can join. And sometimes I'm bored and I go chat to people. Sometimes people message me through Instagram and I socialize a little bit. I do get a lot of messages, sorry. Sometimes I'm too busy to respond to your message, don't take it personally. But whenever an exchange happens, it's usually overwhelmingly positive. So one thing I am proud of is you. I am proud of you guys. I am proud of my audience. I think that when you are a YouTuber, the people who comment on your videos, your community, I think it really reflects who you are as a person. I think the energy that you put out in your videos is also the energy that people return to you. Just go to some videos of YouTubers who are douchebags and you'll see that the comments can be very hateful, very toxic, very judgmental, sometimes even very racist, or generally just nasty people. And I was scared of that happening when my channel was growing so big. But so far it's been great. All the people who are here watching this, great people. I'm 100% honest. And that's what I'm proud of. Because I'm always afraid of attracting psychopaths or stalkers, or there's so many crazy groups of people on the internet. There's a lot of YouTubers who get made fun of, who get ridiculed, who get disliked, downvoted, basically being harassed, called stupid. Or there's just a very toxic community, like a community of hateful people, a community of negative people. But for me, so far, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. But everybody I met so far is amazing. And it could have to do that my channel is about nature and butterflies. I think people who like butterflies and moths are generally good-natured people, right? I don't think this hobby attracts a lot of crazy people. Well, that's wrong. A lot of people in this hobby are crazy, but in a good way, in the positive and friendly way. So that's the third thing I'm proud of. You guys. I really am. Thank you, Rob. Thank you for the donations. They've really helped. I used them to make a lot of videos in a short time. So there's going to be 3 Mothcycles episodes, and it helped me get some free time. Thank you guys. And now to the next segment as usual. Thank you, Rob. Let's go to the credits, which this time I made very artsy to make them more watchable. Let's roll some of the credits for the people who helped me make this video.
Do you think I want this?